International Association Worldwide Annual Convention was held in Las Vegas this year on September 23rd to 25th, 2022. The Women's Affairs 13th Anniversary Conference was held on September 23rd, attended by some special guests who flew all the way from Nigeria. Dr. Edna Otamere presented the topic of infertility and other options of bringing forth children, while Attorney Gladys Nehikari Daniels presented on the USA Violation Against Women Act, VAWA, domestic violence and the impact it has on the family was presented by Miss Ashley. The coordinator of the Inner Women Affairs, Mrs. Adesuwa Obasohan, at the event gave awards to some of the women who have been helping her to manage women's program over these years, including the first female president of the association, Engineer Bosse Ogbefun Oviasu, received the award at the conference. The first Women Affairs Coordinator, Mrs. Eribo, and the Dean of Inner Women Affairs, Mrs. Pat Abe, joined Mrs. Adesuwa Obasohan to honor these special women at the occasion. Mrs. Obasohan further stated that she is very appreciative and proud of the understanding and support from our women, and she does not take this support for granted. She urged the women to continue to encourage other women to come on board so they could build the women wig to its maximum potential.
I'm giving opportunity, telling people and creating awareness that gone are those days that we will say, oh, we separated because she's not fertile. But in the course of this fertility world, I've also found out that it's not only the women that has the problem, but most times when you hear infertility in a marriage, everybody is looking at the woman. Oh, it's the woman that has the problem. But we have come to see that, I don't know over this way, but in Benin, from people that have come from outside too, we have come to see that we have most men. Let's say if 10 men visit the clinic in 1 month, you are sure of 4 that are also having infertility challenge. No sperm count. So what are the causes? Sometimes we have seen that stress is a great factor. Diet, what we eat. We have also seen defects. We have also seen sometimes maybe ailments like diabetes has also caused low sperm count in men. And of course in women, it has also bring about hormonal imbalance. And you'll see the women feeling down. But when the result comes out and you are giving them hope, they are equally happy. Like, oh, I'm not the problem, thank God. So what's the solution? For the solution, we have different solutions. We've seen some patients, they will come with primary infertility. That's with hormonal imbalance. You see some women lactating, even while they are not breastfeeding. And this can cause infertility challenge. And the women will just be moving out, going from one place to another, because they have not taken time to seek the right person. And at the end, you now find out that they've been given a lot of concussions. And they'll keep telling you, I've gone to this place, I've gone to that place, I've gone here, and no solution. In fact, I'm tired. Please tell that woman, don't be tired, because there's a way out. So the solutions are so enormous, but I'm going to say some few ones. The women, by the time they come around, they need to be diagnosed, even the men. And after diagnosis, you are able to pinpoint the cause of their infertility. And of course, every woman, I believe so, they want to become a mother, true or false. Most women desire to become a mother. And becoming a mother is a beautiful thing. Yes, because we want to see our children. We want to see, oh, that marriage, I'm blessed with my children, they are there, that's my seed. So by the time you are able to provide solution to that challenge, you see them so happy. You see them fulfilling. They move around with this smile of, thank God I have my own now. And that is what we tell people these days. Don't go about condemning yourself. Don't go about feeling that, oh, this world, why me? I've done so many things. How? Because you are not taking it accordingly, rightly. So today's awareness is that we can become a mother with different methods. Some of us, by the time you come around, you can become a mother. By the time we know what is the cause, then that cause cannot be what? Treated. That cause cannot be provided solution. Calling problem. That thing you are calling big challenge, there is a solution. Yes, you can become a mother. Maybe directly or indirectly. When I say directly, it means that having known the cause of the problem, then we begin to look at the next step, which is provide what? The solution. You see some women, their challenge is very, 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 let me say, minimal. Maybe they have challenge with their fallopian tubes, blockage, or maybe it was disease. What do? No problem. We will just go ahead, stimulate you, and take your eggs. Then what do? We fertilize it outside the body and inoculate directly into your womb. So women, they don't have blocked fallopian tubes. What they have is diminished egg. So what do? We need to put such person under medication to build up our eggs. Then stimulate her, harvest it, monitor it, of course with the help of the scan. Carry the husband's semen. Maybe that semen equally is weak. Maybe. What do? We enhance. But by the time we do selection, washing, preparing everything, and inseminate, man, it's like you are giving some energy. And you find out that woman that you used to say, don't worry, we are believing God. Time is coming, you become a mother. She is actually a mother. It's as simple as that. But when we also find out that some women, they've been infected maybe with fibroid, or maybe they've undergone surgery before and they started developing scar in the womb. It's not going to be possible. Some womb has aged. We call it endometriosis. The woman looks so beautiful, but it's just so unfortunate that the womb is already aged. Such person can still become a mother through surrogacy. Yes, you don't have to bother yourself. There are some women that have suffered cancer. You wouldn't expect her to undergo pregnancy. It's not fair. Yes. After surviving cancer, you want to put such woman to the stress of pregnancy in the name of I must become a mother. There are other options. And that option is surrogacy. Maybe you had a woman that suffered fibroid, and now the fibroid is so big, and she's scared to undergo surgery. No problem. You can live your life. As long as you have the money, you go off for surrogate. You pay, and by the time you collect your eggs, collect your husband's semen, we fertilize it. And what happened? We give it to your surrogate mother. After 9 months, you are already a mother. You know, Benin says, I didn't know you more. So far, no one in So after why are Benin no more? I know those are the stigma that many people are looking at. I don't want. I tell people I don't care what people say about me. That's my policy. I just do my stuff. As long as it's good, it's making me happy, it's giving me peace of mind, I don't really care about your opinion. And I believe every woman should come to that strong thing. You should know what you want in life. You should know what you want for your children. Can you see that as a grandmother and you have one son-in-law or daughter-in-law, they are coming to stress you with, Mommy, don't worry, we are believing God. Then the next thing, Mommy, we are going to separate. She cannot give birth. Can you allow that to happen in this time? No, we passed that era. You can step in and say, what is the problem? What's the challenge? How do I come in? How do I help you? I have a friend in, is it Dallas? Yes. The wife is presently in Nigeria now, undergoing assisted reproduction technology. She came. We have already seen the challenge. So now we want to provide solution. And for me, in my own way and style of treating people, by the time I see that your success rate is going to be like 50-50, I will just advise you, don't worry, just go back, gather some money together, and come back. Let's do surrogates, and let's also plant you, so that you will have a backup. So by the time people are like nosing, what did she do? No work. God is helping you to nurture something. And all of a sudden, you are out with a baby. And of course, when every woman sees a baby, or every woman knows that she's becoming a mother, there is this wonderful joy. I'm telling you, great joy. And they are like, wow, you mean this is my baby? I also women, they are in UK, but their babies are growing in Nigeria. And they are so happy. And by the time their baby comes, before their baby arrives, what happens? They just come to Nigeria to receive their baby. And by the time they see their baby, I'm telling you, the kind of joy and testimony is not here. So they are like, hey, you mean it? Somebody told me, I never believed until I've seen my baby now. I saw in my flash. They gave me permission. They said, show them. Let them know that really in Benin we can. And if you don't have eggs and you have opted out to adopt a child, then we invite you to go for a donor. Yes. Because if you have made up your mind to say, oh, let's go adopt, because of the adoption procedure, because of the time of waiting, because some persons will just run out of patience. And if they are not properly guided and counseled, depression and setting, they will tell you, oh, especially in Nigeria, I don't know about this place. Maybe time of waiting here is not as long as we have it in Nigeria. So by the time you are convinced, you've accepted to adopt, we just say, then you can do a donor. Go for donor. Because in Nigeria today, we have sperm bank. We also have egg bank. That's ovum. We have it. And for those of us that are, like I said before, maybe you are young now, and you are not sure of becoming a mother, maybe 10 years time, because a woman's egg is as old as a personal age. So the day a woman is giving birth to, the egg number is so much. The viability is high. But as you are aging, that's how the egg is actually aging. So before 40, everything is finished. It's diminished. No more egg. So we'll tell you, they told me I have follicles. Follicles, they are no longer turning to mature egg. What do? So you need to borrow. So these days we advocate, if you are in that category and you are not seeing, maybe you are in your 20s and you are not seeing yourself becoming a mother in the next 10 years, go save your egg. Save it. Keep it. By the time you are ready, come back and do the needful. So that you won't say, I don't want to use donor. Can't you do something? It's not possible. It's not magic. It's reality. So becoming a mother is something I love to see in the life of my fellow women. And I know with this short awareness, we are going to live here with a changed mind. Are we not? Yes. We are no longer going to start harassing that woman that is looking for the fruit of the womb. We are going to show empathy. And they will come back, they took my money. I pay. I said, but you should actually be aware that apart from the womb, there's no other place you can grow and nurture your embryo to become a baby. So whenever you find anyone in that position, please consult the rightful people, and of which I'm a pastor, because my husband is a pastor, he's a senior pastor of World Applied Reconciliation Ministry. He's also a doctor, he's a dental surgeon. Both of us, we open a company that connects the healthcare giver to the healthcare seeker. People like us, we are many at home. You seek the right person, and he's able to guide you. He's able to tell you this is what and where you can actually go to get you a good result. So my awareness today is that there shall be no barren or miscarriage. There's any challenge, there's no woman that cannot give birth anymore. If you desire to become a mother, it's possible. Even at 60 years, 80, 100, name it. Anytime T, you can become a mother. God bless you.
Please give her a big hand of applause. Did you see all the degrees that she had? Yes. When I called her in Dallas, I needed her to send me something about her to present. And she sent me all these degrees. She said, I hope they're not going to say I'm bluffing. I said, I know. I said, you read it. You earn it. Not just for one day. It's a whole lot of time. It comes with hard work. I said, yes, we're going to read all of it. And I went to the house, and I was trying to, maybe I was going to see one old woman with some gray hair. Then when I saw her, she was looking so young and beautiful. Then I said, all your life, you must have been reading and studying. So we are so glad to have her. But we are going to open up the floor for questions for her. Because I know so many women are having this problem, these challenges at home. Because she's a doctor, she was able, a PhD holder for that matter, she was able to break it down to the simplest form. She didn't use big grammar. but she would have. It's not that she don't know, but she wanted you to get the message. So if you have any questions, if you want to reach her in Benin, we know it is cheaper in Nigeria. She's available. She's available. If you want to reach her privately, you want to ask any questions on the program that you have, she's there. Please look at that program. I know this infertility issue, a lot of people are aware, it keeps people up sleepless nights. It can keep you all night. So, this is how, if you have any questions, please, for her. Yes, Mama. Okay, we're going to take 2 questions. I'll come to you.
Good evening, everybody. And thank you. I just thank God for people like you. I am so privileged to have been here to listen to you today. My question, my name is Mrs. Flora Iroa. I'm a clinical resource nurse in one of the busiest baby delivery units in Ontario. And I know that infertility is a big thing. We have a lot of infertility doctors in Ontario. One of the things that I noticed is for surrogacy. So when a woman decides to do surrogate, another mother carrying the baby for them. In Nigeria, is there any legality? Is there any paperwork that is done so that when the baby is born, the woman don't say, you know what, I've bonded with this baby, I don't want to give it away anymore. So what do we do? That's my question. Thank you.
That's a good question.
Thank you, Mama. God bless you. Actually, in Nigeria, there's paperwork. For surrogacy, there is a legal advisor that comes in between the surrogate mother and the intended mother. There's a documentation both parties sign. For us, the surrogate mother gives us a consent. The intended mother or parents also give us a consent. So there's a paperwork. And apart from that, these parties do not see and know themselves. Yes. That's what we do.
One more person. Okay, come. I know you raise up your hand first, and I'm just going to give a section, then I'll come to you. If you can ask from him.
Hello, everybody. My question is for surrogacy. Is there adequate testing being done before somebody is carrying somebody else's child? That on the part of the person that's carrying.
Can you write it out? Okay, you give her mic. Don't worry, let me answer my big auntie. Actually, yes. Before a procedure is done, both, that's for surrogacy now, both the surrogate mother, the intended parents, we do diagnosis. Both routine, hormonal, just compatibility test, we do diagnosis. Especially if she is actually going to help them carry their proteins, that's their cell. Yes, we do compatibility test. Otherwise, they can be miscarriage. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I say both diseases, that's the diagnosis. Diagnosis meaning your blood test, your cell test, of course. I have someone I was chatting with there. Because I travel, there is a patient that we are going to do surrogacy for. I just gave an instruction via WhatsApp that they told me the surrogate has arrived. Because normally, agency also give us surrogate. Before they send to us, they've showed us the profile. Do you understand? Even if they do profiling. By the time they come to me, I will equally confirm. Yes. So that certainly is done. HIV, VDRL, all genotype, blood grouping, all of them. Use your mic. Use your mic on.
So my question is that people have to try several times to be able to make it. So how much does it cost per cycle? And do you have any program in place to accommodate those that are not financially buoyant?
Okay, yes. For me in my clinic, I'm a passionate person. I'm even praying for myself not to go and do the procedure free because I just want you to be a mother. Do you understand my statement? And because of my compassion, I put up a program. I call it instrumental payments. So that maybe it's surrogacy. Surrogacy is the one that is very costly though. For the other one, with 1.3, 1.5, 1.8, depending on your diagnosis, depending on what you found out. Because every case is unique. Your case is unique, is peculiar to that person. Your case might not be a case. Then you ask the question of chances. For me, that's why I said I'm a passionate person in this business. I'm even praying that God, let me not go and start using my own money to do the procedure. The reason is this. You see some women are very emotional. Especially when a procedure phase, they start behaving as if mental health are setting. So for such not to happen in my clinic, because over years, when you plant a woman, not until after 14 days you have seen PT positive. Even you don't sleep. You don't sleep. So because of that, I've been able to put up instrumental payments. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Please, I have a special request from her professor to video from the beginning when I start to talk about her to the end, because she's still a student and she needs to take this to school. So if you have your camera, please help us to video this, please. She's from Las Vegas here. She's a student at the University of Nevada, Reno, pursuing a Bachelor of Arts in Gender, Race Identity Study with a minor in Latest Studies, as well as Bachelors of Science in Psychology with specialization in Behavioral Science. As a mixed race, first generation student, she understood the need for focus on marginalized communities in the field of psychology, as well as movement for social change. She aims to be a clinician that serves this group and their mental health needs. She recognizes one of the biggest factors affecting minorities in domestic violence and its effects on both victims and their families. She is here today to discuss this more in depth and help break down the complex way in which domestic violence hurt our communities and our women. Her name is Ashley Dobek. Please come to the podium.
In front of her students and in front of her entire school, regardless of the response that she got every single day. She is truly a role model. So just a thank you to her. Unfortunately, I don't have my presentation visually that I prepared for you all today. But today I'm going to be talking about domestic violence toward women of color specifically, and how those effects translate into the home. So first off, what is domestic violence? I'm sure we can all we've all thought about this in different ways, and legally it's defined in a very short way that doesn't incorporate all the things that women experience in the home every single day. But plain and simple, domestic violence is essentially a pattern of behavior, of abusive behavior, that goes anywhere from physically abusive to technologically or emotionally abusive, as well as financial abuse and many, many other things that can victimize women in their homes. As a brief reminder before we get into everything, even though this is really important to talk about, it can be a really difficult subject to hear, and a lot of women who have experienced it understand the triggers that can come with it. So I just wanted to take a second to remind everyone to just take care of yourself first and foremost. If you need to take a moment during this presentation, that's perfectly fine. So just reminder to take care of your own health and what you need. So who does domestic violence primarily affect? The biggest two groups that domestic violence affects are women, and it disproportionately affects women of color. The U.S. Department of Justice actually lists Black women in the United States as the group with the highest rate of victimization in the entire country. And domestic violence is one of the types of violence that impacts women of color, and specifically Black women, so directly. The other group that domestic violence affects is children and the families of both the abuser and the abused, in both direct ways of victimization, as well as the side effects and emotional effects that come through because of the violence, but more on that later. So just wanted to give a couple statistics on intimate partner violence or domestic violence. Actually, 37.5% of Native American women experience intimate partner violence. Black women experience intimate partner violence at a rate 35% higher than white women, but are 40% less likely to see justice. That's something that really stood out to me when doing this research, because it was 75% of cases involving white women went to court, whereas 40% less of those cases involving Black women went to court. And I think that's something that we need to change. We need to get justice for all women that experience this type of violence. And domestic violence does in fact affect men. However, only 1 in 9 men experience domestic violence, whereas 1 in 4 women experience this in their homes. So I broke down the way that domestic violence affects women into 3 main categories that we'll get into. The 3 categories are physically, situationally, and psychologically. As for the physical effects, one of the main effects is health conditions. A lot of women who experience domestic violence have the direct physical effects that come with it. A lot of these include both the visual effects, such as bruising, broken bones, chronic pain, as well as the less visible ones, such as fatigue, weakness, headaches, chest and abdominal pain, nausea and dizziness. Irritable bowel syndrome is really common among victims of domestic violence, as well as psychosomatic disorders that a lot of women will go to the doctor and they'll ask, why am I feeling all these things? And the doctors can't find anything wrong, but that doesn't make it any less real. And being able to recognize these physical signs is a really important way to help loved ones and family members and friends. The second physical effect is the mortality that comes with domestic violence. Femicide is the It's the 7th leading cause of death among women overall, and it is actually the leading cause of death for African American women aged 15 to 45. 47,000 women and girls worldwide are killed by intimate partner or family violence, and that's a statistic from 2020, which is really, really recent. It accounts for approximately half of all femicides, but only around 6% of male homicides. So we can see the big disparity between how many women are killed in their homes by people that they love or know. In many instances of the male homicides, it is still as a result of violence against women. A lot of women end up potentially murdering their spouses as a way to escape the violence that they experience every single day. The United Nations actually found that in 2020, a woman or girl is killed by a family member every 11 minutes. So we've been in here for a couple hours now, and if you think really hard about that statistic, that's at least 6 women or girls an hour that have been killed worldwide by intimate partner violence. The last physical effect that I wanted to talk about is reproductive health, which you touched on quite a bit. There can be an increased rate of violence during pregnancy that can lead to increased rates of sexual coercion. It can lead to delays in antenatal care that's really vital for the health of the baby. And it can also lead to birth complications such as low birth weight, stillbirths, fetal injury, miscarriage, and so much more. However, a lot of women also use pregnancy as a protective measure when they're experiencing domestic violence. In many cases, women report not being beaten during pregnancy, so this can lead to frequent intentional pregnancy that can take a huge toll on women's bodies, and it can also have physical or financial implications, which is why you see a lot of families that experience violence have a lot of children, because women will continue to get pregnant as often as possible as a way to escape the violence. And the last aspect of reproductive health is reproductive freedom and choice. A lot of women experience contraception, coercion, or sabotage, where their abusive spouses will sabotage their contraception as a way to get them pregnant against their will, which leads to high rates of unintended pregnancy and therefore high rates of abortion, as well as high forced birth rates for women who can't access abortion. The situational effects that come with domestic violence are primarily rates of poverty and homelessness. One of the primary concerns for women experiencing intimate partner violence is financial stability. So many women experience job instability or job loss. Women who undergo domestic violence are in and out of jobs constantly. They're never in a job long enough to reap the benefits such as health care or raises or any bonuses. And so it leads to financial dependence on their abuser, which is one of the main reasons that a lot of women do not leave abusive situations, because they're stuck. And if they have children, the financial responsibilities get even higher. It's also known that around 38% of women who experience domestic violence also experience homelessness. That's a really, really high number of women. So the primary psychological effects of domestic violence are depression or major depressive disorder. Anxiety disorders are really common among women who experience domestic violence. Self-esteem and trust issues, suicide or suicidal ideation, eating disorders, as well as PTSD or battered women's syndrome. Battered women's syndrome is a subcategory of PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder, and it includes many women who may not qualify under the textbook definition of post-traumatic stress disorder. It was coined by Lenore Walker in 1979, and it's essentially characterized by a cycle of being battered, in which tension is created in a household, a event, either violent or emotionally abusive, occurs, and then the abuser asks for forgiveness. And then the women continue in that cycle because of that final piece where they ask for forgiveness, and it just keeps going and keeps going. The difference between battered women's syndrome and post-traumatic stress disorder tends to be characterized by that ending of the traumatic event, whereas when women experience battered women's syndrome, it continues until they find a way out. But a lot of times the way out can be deadly. So it's a really important psychological way of describing the thing these women experience. I read about a study that actually occurred at my university in Reno. It was done in 2002, but it explained patterns of adaptation that a lot of women who experience domestic violence exhibit. But in doing this, they asked the 40 women in shelters in northern Nevada and northern California to list out their biggest concerns, their biggest health concerns and mental health concerns. And some of the findings from this study were that 50% of the women reported anxiety, 46% reported depression, 98% of the women reported disordered eating, 40% of these women reported a suicide attempt or extreme suicidal ideation, 91% of the women reported drug and alcohol abuse, and 83% of these women believed wholeheartedly that their health problems stemmed from their domestic abuse. So we can see through this study and through many, many others that have been conducted, the external effects that domestic violence has on women and their livelihoods. So moving on to how domestic violence affects children and their families. The first biggest thing is developmental concerns, as well as concerns in school with behavior. A lot of children who grow up witnessing domestic violence experience age regression or troubles with age-appropriate development, including things like inability to express emotions, age-appropriate behaviors like bedwetting, sleep irritability, and other developmental concerns, as well as problem behavior in school. A lot of children will externalize their behavior in the classroom and then will be punished by teachers for doing so without the teachers knowing the experience that they're having in their households. Another concern for children is just the general normalization of violence. It's actually known that boys who are exposed to domestic violence in the home are twice as likely to abuse a future intimate partner or child. This has huge implications for their future families and for women all around. Girls who witness domestic violence in the home are more likely to engage in risky behaviors, such as drug and alcohol use and disordered eating. They can also increase the likelihood for victimization of young girls in early relationships. Through that normalization of violence, they look at their households, they look at their parents, they look at the people that they love and the people that they look up to, and they see violence, and so they expect violence in relationships that should be loving, and they allow that to continue, and it becomes a huge cycle of just victimization for young women. Lastly, aggression towards families is really common among children who witness domestic violence. In situations where the mother is abused, a lot of the times the children will also reciprocate that violence towards their families. As for extended family impacts, a lot of women are forced by their abusive partners to isolate themselves from their loved ones, from their families, from their friends. And a lot of extended families experience grief from losing a loved one who has either been forced so out of society by their abusive partner that they never get to see them or potentially have died. It also comes with really, really big emotional effects, and a lot of women who experience domestic violence become very distant from both their families and their children, and it makes it very hard to be proper mothers to their children. So what is already being done to help support these victims? Well, legally, there's 3 pieces of legislation that focus on protecting women. There is the Family Violence and Prevention Services Act, which was established in 1984. This act is mostly centered on providing support services for victims and exposed children, and its biggest focus is funding shelters. This is really important for women who need a place to go to when they escape this violence. The Violence Against Women Act was established in 1994, and it has a direct focus on response to domestic violence, sexual assault, stalking, and other things that women experience. It also funds culturally specific programs, so this is really important for women who may not speak English, for immigrant women, and for women with different home experiences around the world, around the country. And then there's the Victims of Crime Act, which was also established in 1984. This act supports 4 million victims of crime in states, territories, and tribes yearly. It provides grants and housing to victims in need, and it has over 4,400 service agencies in the country. Some resources that are also established for victims of domestic violence are the Domestic Violence Hotline, which is available 24 hours a day for women to contact if they need to. There's also the Suicide and Crisis Line, which is 988. They recently changed the number. There's also a lot of national online resources, such as the National Center for Victims of Crime, the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, the Battered Women's Justice Project, which helps with legal advice for women experiencing domestic violence, and the National Immigrant Women's Advocacy Project, among many, many other resources. So how can we help? Because that's the biggest thing, is you hear about these things and you wonder, what can you do to help in your everyday lives? Well, the biggest thing is empowerment and education. Through community organizing and through awareness. When thinking about community organizing, we have to create support systems for victims and remind victims that their experiences are real and heard and seen. We have to encourage social connectedness to take away from that forced social isolation. And we have to elevate victims' voices and center their needs. As for awareness, education is extremely important, especially among women, teens, and men. We need to educate our men so that they stop committing these acts of violence. Empowerment of women through this awareness and through this education that creates community concern. Because when the community is concerned, other people hear it, and the people who have the power to make change hear about it and are encouraged to do so. So my biggest takeaways from this presentation that I hope you take with you today are just to focus on that awareness. Even if you don't have the time to sit and do research and understand every single aspect of domestic violence and what it does to children and their families and to women, talk about it. Remind people that it's happening. Look to your loved ones and make sure that they're okay. And talk to your women and talk to each other and make sure that everyone is safe and that we have that awareness and that we spread education and that we empower and lift women's voices and especially the needs of those who are victims. So thank you so much.
Wow, Ashley. Please let's give her a hand of applause. Unbelievable. Before I'm going to say something a little bit about it, do we have any questions from the audience for Ashley? Anybody, please?
Ashley, I have a question.
Okay, where is the mic? Who has the mic? Please pass it.
Ashley, hello. Ashley, thank you very much. I'm a psychotherapist and I teach domestic violence. And you were just amazing. I'm sitting here and I go, oh my God, I've been teaching this class for so long and I hear so much new information from you. So I really appreciate that. My question actually is, why is it now that the state of California, when a parent argues in the presence of children now, CFS will get in and the children are taken away? Their belief is because the parents argue, no physical fight now, just argument, it traumatizes the children. So I don't know about the state of Nevada. Is it the same? The children have to be taken away. The very fact that parents were arguing in the presence of children who are under the age of maybe 12.
Thank you so much for your question. So I am unsure about the actual legal implications of that in the state of Nevada. But I do think that, what was that? Okay. But I do think that it's really important to recognize the difference between healthy parts of a relationship and what actual violence is. So unfortunately, I think that policies like that may have a greater impact on children than just witnessing their parents argue. Everyone argues, it's healthy and natural to a certain extent. I will have to do a little bit of research about that.
I'm looking at everybody's faces here. If I take a census, probably about 90% of people here have experienced domestic violence in their life, or even more than that. As a Nigerian, as an African woman that have been through immigration, I kind of like this topic of domestic violence and the immigration one we're going to talk about present and next. Because sometimes we have a lot of patience when we are trying to get people to stay in this wonderful country we call America. So, in my own little way, if you hear your friend is going through trouble, try and lift them up. The gossip should come down a little bit. Not by telling your friends, your husband is beaten there every day, no one come out. It's not that easy. You have to give an assistance in any way you can help. For those of us that call themselves big girls, when you see the little girls is being beaten, try and find a way how you can help. It doesn't matter how much you can give. Help. No gossip. Carry them. If they don't have a job, help them to look for one. We are a big family. This family you are looking at, we have all the powerful women in the US here. If they don't have a job, help them. If they don't have a paper, tell them. If their husband is beating them every day, tell them without beating. Take a picture and go get your immigration status straightened up. You cannot stay there and be beaten every day. And the nurses that are being killed, slaughtered by their husband on a daily basis. Most of the nurses here, I was sitting down in the circle of them yesterday. Everybody's complaining. My leg can't even move. I have to go rest my feet. But most of the husbands don't know this. They enslave themselves just to keep their home going. So, brothers and sisters, I know most of us here, they are now senior citizens. But for the young ones, help them. Lecture them the way you were able to conquer. Even some of the elderly are still going through it. If your parents are going through it, make sure you speak on their behalf. I did for mine. Please, you should do for yours. Thank you. Thank you, Ashley. Very important topic. And I'm going to call on our next presenter here, which has to do with immigration. I really love this too. She grew up in Benin City, attended Indian College. Attended Indian College and then University of Benin, where she obtained a bachelor's of pharmacy. She grew up in Benin. She migrated to the United States in the mid-90s. She switched careers and attended Texas University, where she graduated with a doctorate of jurisprudence, Thurgood Marshall School. She also attended the University of Houston Law Center, where she graduated with a Master's of Law degree, International Energy, Environment, and Natural Resource Law and Honors. She was called to bar by the Texas Supreme Court in 2000, and she was admitted to practice law in Texas in various U.S. district and bankruptcy courts across the United States. She has presented individual and argued hundreds of cases before various immigration courts, federal courts all over the country. She has been listed on multiple editions of Who is in American Law, the Continental Registry of National Business Leaders, Martin Dahl, Harvard, top lawyer, top immigration lawyer, top family lawyer, and in the 20s was accorded the Albert Nelson Marquis Lifetime Achievement Award. She is the founder, presently the principal attorney at the Daniel Legal Group, which offers various cities in Texas. Their practice areas include immigration, both state and federal criminal and civil matters, family law and oil and gas matters. She is a proud mom to 3 young men and a proud Edo woman. That's right. She is from the Nehikari Edo Polo family. Her name is Gladys Nehikari Daniels. Big round of applause.
Okay, all right, good evening everybody. So I'm here to talk about domestic violence as it will affect your immigration or it will help your immigration status in this country. I want to make a disclaimer because I've spoken on this topic several times, and often I will get calls from our daddies and family members that will say, are you instigating our women to act out and leave us? I said, no, please. My job is to create awareness and to let anyone who finds themselves in a situation that they shouldn't be in, not to feel hopeless. I know that there are not just resources out there, but if your status is not in order, there are ways and you can actually use the circumstances that you are in to be able to fix your status. So that's my disclaimer. Now, I am licensed to practice in Texas, but because immigration law is federal, I actually handle cases all across the nation. So let's talk about VAWA. I think our last speaker was very informative. Thank you. So VAWA was created to protect those women, children. Now, when I say women, yes, it is true that majority of the people who will suffer domestic violence are women. But that's not always the case, because men also suffer domestic violence. And so, even when the act is called the Violence Against Women Act, VAWA, actually the women there is unisex, because it actually also can benefit men who find themselves in those similar situations. So surprisingly, we actually have a trend. Men are the ones filing. Okay? So, but VAWA originally was enacted to help the women, but it cuts across gender. So it can apply to women, and it can also apply to men. So, what do you do when you find yourself in a situation where you've come into the country? Okay, you met somebody online, or you met somebody in Nigeria, and then he invites you to come to the US to visit, and you get into a relationship, and you marry him, and then maybe you have a baby or two, and then things start going downhill. Now you have come on a visitor's visa, so you are not out of status, because you probably stayed a year, 2 years, but you already have a kid, or maybe you don't even have a kid, but you married the guy. So now what do you do? Okay. Now, if you are in a situation where you now feel like you've been abused, and I'm going to talk about under immigration law what is abuse. It's probably a little bit different from the clinical or criminal definition of abuse. Immigration is different. So, but anyway, you find yourself in a situation where you've been abused, you're out of status, you've got no money, you probably don't have friends, because one of the ways of abuse is social isolation. Don't despair, all hope is not lost. Now, I'm sure some of the women sitting here will say, well, no, this has nothing to do with me because I'm a citizen or I'm a permanent resident. But we've got friends, and we have sisters, and we've got neighbors, and we have relatives who might be in similar situations. So I believe it behooves each and every one of us to be aware. So for a woman like that, she's actually got an opportunity, because if she's able to prove that the abuser, now the abuser can be a man, can be a woman, but the abuser is a citizen or a permanent resident, okay, then she may qualify. But it's not just being married to a US citizen or a permanent resident. Your marriage in the first place must have been entered into good faith. Now, the reason I'm bringing this good faith, because in our practice, a lot of the cases that we run across will be people who probably married paper only. So they try to file I-130s, it gets denied, then they call Ms. Daniels, I want to file VAWA. Okay. So if you can't prove that your marriage was in good faith, then there might be a problem with that. So you have to have a good faith marriage. That means you sincerely married the person, it just didn't work out, now you're stuck, you're out of status. You can't go back home to Nigeria or wherever you came from. You don't know what to do, and especially when you've got no job. Anyway, so you prove that the marriage was in good faith, and you prove that the person is an abuser, and then now you prove that there was abuse. Now, this is the fun part, because a lot of women will tell you, but you know, he was very good, he never put his fingers on me. So, how do you prove that there's been an abuse? I think I mentioned social isolation. Okay. He's the only one that works, I don't work, so he controls the money. I have to ask him for money to buy my feminine products. Or I work, but I'm sorry, I have to give, my husband tells me how much to spend out of my money. Or I work, and he works, but he tells me that because he brought me to the States, he has to decide how we're going to use the money that I bring in. There's nothing wrong with that, but when money now becomes the tool to control the spouse, you may have abuse. Abuse can also be psychological. Constant accusations of infidelity. Immigration says it's grounds for abuse. It's a form of abuse. Sexual abuse. Now, the doctors have spoken in the house, and the academic person has spoken. But for an immigration, sexual abuse, when the man keeps forcing you to have sex with him when you don't want to or you don't feel like it, that is a form of abuse. Okay. But you have to be able to prove these things now. So the next question now comes up, well, how do I prove this? All of these things, a lot of them are subjective in the sense that I don't have bruises and I didn't tell anyone because I was shy. I don't want my church people to know this is what he's doing to me. So how do you prove this abuse? Okay. Credibility matters a lot. So sometimes if you are able to give a detailed narrative of what you've been through and the examining officer determines from your narrative that this person is likely telling the truth because you have been detailed, you remember dates, you remember incidents, you remember locations, you are able to narrate each and every one. You don't always have to have physical abuse. Now, if you told somebody in the church, now I'm sure your clergyman is under his religious cloak, he can't divulge it. But if you've told members of your church, or you've told some few friends what's going on, and they can support your testimony that they are aware or they intervened when this man was, doing these things, then you've got proof. Because there are some very narcissistic men who will abuse you and make sure there's no physical proof. So you don't always have to have physical proof because your abuse can be emotional, can be sexual in nature, and sometimes can be just being overly controlled. The man wants to know where you are at every point in time, wants to know who you are with and what you are doing. Now, please, ladies, my sisters, let me speak with you. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing with your spouse or your significant other wanting to know your whereabouts at all times. But when you start feeling that it is controlling and it is becoming excessive or harassing in nature, coupled with the situation that at home, then you can say, okay, I don't think this is normal. So if you have that feeling and you don't think that is normal, it's probably abuse. All right? So you have all these things and you now say, okay, so Ms. Daniels, what do I do? Okay. You apply for the self-petition, you apply as a self-petitioner. And the actual application is your I-360. Now, so long as you enter with a visa or any kind of visa into the US, meaning you were admitted into the US, if you apply for the I-360 and it is approved, processing time is probably 16 to 20 months, and it is approved, you can adjust status. But here's the fun part. You can continue to live with the man in the house and he doesn't know what you're doing. You don't need to leave him. Now, obviously, for your own health, mental health, if you can afford to leave, you need to leave. But majority of the clients that we see usually cannot afford financially to live on their own because they don't have work. They don't have a work authorization. So you file your applications, and usually within 4 to 6 months, they will send you a prima facie determination that allows you to get your work authorization, get your driver's license, get your social security card, so you can have a job and then you can leave. Now, if you did not enter the United States on a visa, you can still apply for your VAWA. It will be approved. But when it is approved, you will now need to ask for a waiver because you have entered the country without a visa. Okay? So, I've had clients will ask you, well, how about my children? What happens to my children? Well, fantastic. Any child that is under 21 can apply based on the abuse to the parent. So long as the abuse occurred while that child was still under 21, it's good. Even if the child ages out, it's fine. Now, how about the parents that live with you? Mom came to visit, husband is beating you on a daily basis. All right. Your parent can also benefit from your application because it covers your parents, it covers the person himself, and it covers the children under 21. Now, this is important. Sometimes, because the abuse happened, the abuser may get sent to jail or gets arrested. So if he gets arrested and he's not a citizen and he's a permanent resident, he is facing deportation. So the next question the clients will ask, well, what happens if he loses his status? It doesn't matter. Because at the time, so long as at the time the abuse happened, he had a viable status. Okay, now. You now have abuse in household where the abuser doesn't have papers. So what do? So if he doesn't have papers, the man beating the wife, or in some cases, the woman beating the husband, both of you don't have papers, but there's abuse going on, what happens? Well, you can apply for VAWA, and I'm sorry we don't have our screen, so you can't apply for VAWA, but if the person, the abuser, gets charged with a criminal offense, then you can apply for a U visa because you are now a victim of a crime. Now, the crime must be domestic violence or assault of a family member. It has to be something related to the family. Then you can apply for a U visa and then you take care of yourself and your children. Okay? So again, to recap, the abuser must be a citizen or a permanent resident. There must be a good faith marriage, and that includes, please don't crucify the messenger. We actually include same-sex marriages and common law marriages, okay? All right, so for common law marriages, so let's assume, okay, you both came into the country. He's a citizen, he's supposed to file for you, keeps putting it off, doesn't file, and doesn't marry you. Let's assume he will never marry you. But if you live in a jurisdiction where you can prove common law marriage, and common law marriage being, okay, you've been living together, holding yourselves out as husband and wife, you know, and cohabitation, very.
Okay, moving on. Please, the picture should be restricted for now. It's not fair to other people sitting there. We all want to take pictures. Me too, I love pictures. Mama over there, you are still passing the phone. Can we all come sit down? Thank you. Love you guys. Okay. The next one we are going to call on is Mrs. Adesuwa Basohan that has been patiently waiting, and she's going to do her award presentations.
Thank you. I appreciate your staying the course with us this evening, and I appreciate the support of every one of the women that has stood the course of time with me on this journey. Putting this together is not a one person's job. It takes courage, it takes dedication, it takes a lot of effort, and this has been a group effort. And so I want to acknowledge the presence of the very first woman. As a matter of fact, the two women who sat as friends, you know, you have some ideas, it comes to your head, and then you talk about it as friends, and it gets into action, the action gets into small action, and boomerangs to place. So I look to my left, and I'm so happy that my big sisters, the deans of ENAW women, they are still on board from the very beginning. And so to my sisters, without even mentioning your names, you know who you are. To the women who attended the very first ENAW women meeting, I salute you. You know who you are. So let me invite my two sisters, two friends, who felt that when ENA convention happens like this every year, the women are not just to come and walk around in the hallway, parading back and forth. They thought it would be a good idea to have a thing like this, and for us to be able to contribute. Instead of just pacing back and forth while the men are busy in the room having meetings. And so, my darling sisters, my senior sister, Mrs. Eribo, flew all the way from Nigeria to come and attend this conference. The very first woman who was the coordinator of this program. Her husband, Professor Roderick Eribo, first president of ENAW, he sent his greetings. Mr. Eribo, please. And of course, my team of ENAW women, Ms. Carter, the big journey of you. There is nothing you can do by yourself. So I'm going to acknowledge and appreciate the women, my rock solid supporters. I'm not saying the other women are not helping me. You are. But it takes more. There's more to it. And those women that I'm acknowledging tonight, I just want to appreciate you for your sacrifices, for all you have done and continues to do. So first on our list right here, Honorable president of this great organization. My sister, engineer Mrs. Bose Erun Ogbefun Obiasun, my Thank you, my sister, for all you have been doing in this department. We appreciate you. We love you. And, of course, I'm sorry.
On behalf of the Women Affairs Coordinator and all of us here present, as the women of ENA, I present this to you, my Honorable Engineer Bose Obiasu.
And of course, my go-to, my rugged sister, my fearless princess, my gist partner, one woman soldier that I can call at 3 a.m. in the morning. The phone will ring and she will answer. No other than my darling sister, Mrs. Katie Salami.
So I have to say something. Good evening, everybody. I came very late. I missed my flight. I've been in the airport for 24 hours. I was like, my God, I have to be here. And I thank God I made it, because it would have been so painful for me. But I'm glad I'm here. So let me say that she's my look-alike, right? Yes. Well, I'm not a troublemaker. She's our woman, fearless, one-woman soldier. And she has also been the rock of this, the whole organization, as a matter of fact, put together, men and women, all of them. She runs them this way, that way, this way. So we are very proud of you. We need more women like you. And I know we have more like her, but we need to chest out more of this on this platform. Otherwise, our men will run us back to the kitchen. We want to be in the kitchen, but we also want to be in the forefront. We want to be everywhere, just like the men. So I want to say thank you for what you're doing and the energy that you're giving everybody, including myself. I'm very proud of you. And presenting to you, Honorable Princess, one-woman soldier, Mrs. Katie Salami.
Okay. Moving along. This next recipient, she is my sister, my newfound sister. 4 years ago now, for this position that I am in now, we challenged each other. We were both contestants for this position, and you can see she's equal to the task. I want to thank Mrs. Megusi from the bottom of my heart. I want to thank her. You know, she's a legend. For most, ENA has become so toxic that when people have elections these days, they don't even speak to each other anymore. They don't even say hello to each other. But this woman came on board, and she came on board strong, solid. She amazed me, she blew my mind. And so I am very, very grateful, my sister. So, Honorable Mrs. Meg Jones Uwesi.
smile, because of your beauty and your intelligence. So on behalf of all of us here, the women of ENAW, I say thank you.
Donald Trump away. Okay.
Thank you. I received this with thanks.
Thank you. Okay, next. I don't wear, I'm not a woman, I don't know. So, you know, when you find new blood coming on board, becoming active, you tell yourself you are doing something right? Yeah. And so I appreciate every effort, every phone call, every suggestion is deeply appreciated, because to move around with women and be successful at it is not a day's job. It is a joint effort, and you have to have the skill to manage and attract strong women. Edo women are strong, solid, rock solid women. And so my sister came on board recently, and she came on board strong, all the way from Toronto, Canada. Honorable Mrs. Florence Omoruna. I appreciate it. Please stand for her. All the way from Canada. Our first lady of ENAW.
Say that it gladdens my heart that I have to present to her. We are alma mater of Ikoba Grammar School. Okay, so something good came out of Ikoba Grammar School, right? Yes. So we're very appreciative of you, like she already said, and you guys should continue at the pace we started, right? Because you are the young blood. So you are. So anyway, this is to appreciate you for all you're doing for the ENA. Let's go take a picture of that.
It was in Nigeria. When I went home recently, I had severe toothache, and I asked my younger sister, I said, refer me to a dentist, let me go get my teeth pulled. So guess what? I was referred to her husband's clinic. And then that day she visited the clinic. I was lying down on the dental chair, and she goes, sister, sister. But I didn't know that that's what she does. Until somebody who she helped, my 58-year-old friend, told me about her. I said, what? You know, so, you see, it's a circle. And that's how I told her, within, 2 weeks or thereabout, she made a decision. She said, I'm coming, I will come and present. And so it gladdens my heart that Edo State has this kind of services. I asked her, she said there are men from Europe or even the US that they send their semen. I said, how do you do that? She said, there are ways that they have. She explained it. I said, but Nigeria that does not have light, how do you preserve? When she explained the whole thing to me, and time didn't permit her to go into in-depth explanation today, but really, I was shocked that Nigeria, that they can do that, and they have huge success stories. Huge success stories. Women in their 50s, carrying pregnancy, twin surrogacy, and so thank God for that information. And it came from our sister from Canada. I don't have my glasses. My Honorable Mrs. Flora Irowa, whose husband and I grew up in my own neighborhood, my brother's wife. Where are you, Mrs. Irowa? Oh my God, don't tell me she got up. Mrs. Flora Irowa. She left. Where did she go to? Okay.
Somebody can take it on her behalf.
Okay, Miss Amora, collect this for her, please. Thank you. Thank you to Mrs. Irowa for that wonderful suggestion. Very good suggestion that is beneficial to all of us.
Oh, I'm a Canadian now.
Canadian.
since I'm a Canadian by proxy because of her, I present this to you for Mrs. Flora Irowa.
Thank you. We are back to the US. We are back to the US. And so, I want to appreciate another wonderful system. Very, very supportive system. This sister of mine, without going into details, I hope she's still sitting here. Well, without going into details, she has been a rock solid pillar of support for the women wing of ENAW. She's my sister from Edo North, and she has galvanized Edo North women from all over US to be a part of us. And when these Edo North women came on board, they didn't just come on board and be looking at us. They got involved, they got active. When I said, well, if you have the voice to sing, please engage. The Edo North women got involved and they really, wanted to be a part of us. She may have stepped out of here because she's a part of the COP as well. She's Honorable Mrs. Victoria Momo Salau. Is she still here with us? Sister Victoria Momo Salau. Okay, COP. Okay. Is there any Edo North woman sitting here that can receive this on her behalf? No? Okay.
Okay, tell them to take it.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, she's here.
Yes, one person to receive it on behalf of Mrs. Victoria Momo Salau. Thank you. Okay. Oh, one of our strong Edo North sisters. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. Most of these people are in the COP. Is Sister Lucy Binoba here? Let's speed this up. Sister Lucy Binoba, very supportive sister. She's a COP. They have a very important meeting today. Sister Queen Ibinake, who is our treasurer, our money woman, she's on the COP too. Please, can anybody reach out to Mrs. Ogogo? I know she's busy selling out there in the lobby. Mrs. Ogogo, please, can somebody call her on the phone or tell her to come, please, to receive this award of recognition. But before Mrs. Ogogo comes, my other sister that came on board new, she has been a strong, rock solid supporter as well. I hope she's still here. She was supposed to be one of the MCs this evening, but because she wasn't here, we didn't call her name. Mrs. Marilyn O.J. Homo. Mrs. Marilyn O.J. Homo, is she in the room? She's not here either. Mrs. Queen Ibinaka, they are all in the meeting at the COP. So please, can somebody call Mrs. Ogogo? I know she's here, but she's busy selling. Okay, let me tell you a little bit about Mr. Ogogo. This fabric that we have on here, this ENAW fabric, was produced by Mrs. Elizabeth Ogogo. And this fabric was produced years ago. She put her money down, she tied her money down to have this fabric produced. And she was calm and she stayed peaceful. Mrs. Ogogo, what's the one of Mrs. Ogogo? What's the one in there? So for all your fabric, as shall be purchased, we have an in-house distributor, producer of fabrics, and that is Mr.
Yeah.
Hello. Miso. You guys do you? When I was sorry, so, on behalf of the ENAW Women Affairs, we present this to you for making us beautiful today and forever. So, thank you for this colorful.
Yes.
Praise.
Hallelujah.
Material.
Amen.
And we see more from you.
Yes.
Every year.
Amen.
Maybe next year we change the color, but it still be the same.
I'm ready.
Okay. By the grace of God. So, on behalf of all of us, I present this to you. Wese.
Oh my God. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Last but not the least, we save the best for last. And that is no other than our sister. Peaceful, quiet, intelligent. For those of you who engage in the magazine production, you know, for as the moment your money hits her account, she puts it on the platform. Efficient. Thank you to our sister, Honorable Mrs. Dorothy Ewayiwo. Thank you, my sister from Texas. Thank you for the efficiency. Thank you. We appreciate you.
Just to add to what our coordinator has said, this is to appreciate you for all you're doing and you will continue to do for ENA women. Thank you.
Thank you, my dear sisters. I appreciate you. Thank you. And that's it. Mrs. Uzi, over to you, madam. Thank you.
Where are the men here? The DJ. You are the only DJ we have here, sir. Can you come here and help me? I know that's not part of the job. It's all grandma calling you. Please come over here to help us with the chairs. Everybody just want to take position and be on the distance. We can arrange it, then it will be easier.
I will advise that those who are wearing something like this should be in the front. I will have fun with it. You know.
This chair has to go.
Hey,
we have the 3 lines. Where moment to time and now we wait. No, the check can stay we're in everybody's room. While they're rushing at the end over there. Please, respectfully. I'm not being rude. And you know it's hard to control have a grammar. Another chair can still go there.
Another check can still go there. Okay.